to face on that end of the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say a few things stand out. I think starts with having great rim protection. And I think that's a really important part in kind of modern day defenses, especially when you can play with multiple bigs, and it gives you just an added layer of rim protection, which I think counts for a lot. I think, looking forward to game planning and specifics of tonight, I think we've got to try and get out and transition as much as possible. There's a big discrepancy in terms of their half court defense, and then when we're getting them when they're not neutral, when they're not set. So that's got to be an emphasis. I think their half court is so good that it makes them a top five defense overall. But that's why we got to be even more intentional of our transition and pushing the pace.
Okay.
Hi, Christy Winter Scott, Monumental Sports Network. I have two quick ones for you. With the absence of Megan Gustafson and the interior play for Washington, and they go inside out with their style in the offensive end, how are you going to make the adjustments without that depth on the interior?
Yeah, absolutely. I think always just a great opportunity for other players to step up, and that's how I view this. I think obviously we're really happy for Meg. That's a huge occasion for her, but great chance for others to show what they can do. And we talk all year about this in terms of staying ready, and this is what it's for games like tonight. So I think I'm confident in the group we have, confident in our bigs. I think there's no better chance for them to go out tonight, prove a point, and can push for more playing time moving forwards.
And lastly, for me, what did you glean from the last matchup with Washington with all of just like one possession difference four times?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
did you glean from that from your team? And if there's one specific thing that can get you over the line there,
Yeah,
what would that
obviously,
be?
took me a very long time to watch it back as part of the prep for this game, and I'm hoping it doesn't go into another quadruple overtime. But no, it was a lot of interesting thing. I watched it back again yesterday, and I just thought it was a really good quality game, both for both teams. Um, so I feel confident in the scout. We've got a good game plan in place, and I think yeah, great chance. We're gonna make some tweaks since we played here last, and just yeah, excited to see what that will look like. I think it's always great when we get to play, team second, third time and make these adjustments. I think it's really good for our group just to go through the process of being able to take in information from what they see on film or some specific details and actually go and apply it. So I think it's things like this which will make the group better moving forwards.
Hey, Coach. Deidre Clark from the Shot Clock Corner. I have two quick ones for you.
Absolutely.
First, we've seen an increased minutes for Sarah Williams and as well as Frida. Can you just talk a little bit about their development and what you've seen that's allowed them more minutes on the court?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with Sarah, and I think really it began with her defense, and that's why she's carved out those minutes at the five position for us in terms of we really needed help with our defensive rebounding, and that was the first reason why we went with Sarah. And then we get a lot of other things too in terms of rim protection. I think she's really improved with her pick and roll offensively and knowing what we're looking for. I think that was brand new to her. We had to work really hard to eliminate the like for like post ups, and it's normal, right? Because that was a big part of the game. Sarah high school, college, all of that, and I think it's more learning when the post up is a good situation and when it isn't. And obviously, we don't feel like there's a strong advantage if we're posting opposing fours and fives, and that's not just Sarah. It goes for all our bigs. Versus, yeah, if we can post a mismatch or a small, that's a great situation for us. But because we're playing so efficiently in the pick and roll, that's what we want to look for instead. And then it's much easier because you're going against the big with momentum and they're kind of out of position from some type of drop cover or down cover versus working really hard, maybe like 8, 10 feet away from the rim to get to the rim and find an efficient shot. So Sarah's done a great job picking that up. And then with Frida, I think we've really seen it the last few games. I think we're getting the return from playing our young players and playing the bench. I think we're just starting to perhaps tap into that. I think Frida's a great example of that. And she's always in the right spot at the right time. And I think she's just a very cerebral player. And I think you look at the shot making and the three is now falling for in this last stretch of games and she's shooting it with confidence. We want her to take those threes in 0 seconds without any type of hesitation or fake or jab step on the catch. Just if the defender cannot physically alter your shot, then there is no contest. You need to shoot it. And I think Frida is really looking for that now, which is great, and that's why she's carving out a nice role.
And then my follow-up with the CLA system that you've implemented, how have you been, I guess, satisfied or happy with how the team has just taken to it and made the adjustments that are necessary for it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really speaking about it yesterday with the coaches. I think the best thing is it just kind of normalized where it's just part of our training culture now, where we come into the gym and players really embracing it, where we don't even blink at it. It's normal to shoot off different movements, exaggerated arcs, different basketballs, and I think the most important thing is doing something differently. It's only effective if it actually works, right? We're not being different to be different, just to be contrary. It's not about that, and I think we're seeing that in terms of just the development of the players, which is great. And I feel like the whole roster is really developing in all the areas we have, that the KPIs we have for them in their PD. I do think that we have a big shooting culture around the program. We're spending a lot of time investing in that in our practices, and I think that's where we see maybe the greatest kind of return on things like differential learning, constraints that approach, using both of those methodologies. But yeah, I just think something like a constraints led approach, I'd love just to see it become normalized, because you know, to me, it's nothing that's that radical or that different. It's just very intuitive. If we know that the game is all about making the right decisions at the right time, well, how can we prepare to train with a little bit more of that unpredictability? And I think, I definitely hope that we're moving towards that direction just in global basketball in the next 5-10 years. And, I think lots of great coaches at all levels are using a constraint-set approach now, and that's great to see. Pleasure.
Coach Dorian Kraft, Monumental Sports Network. 2 quick ones for me as well. You mentioned the last time that you were here, you felt that the team had gotten away from your defensive principles that you put into place in training camp. You particularly mentioned your base coverage and pick and roll defense. How would you evaluate how the team has progressed in that area since the last time here?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was, when we were last here, it was coming off the midst of the 2 games in Chicago. And I think that was, probably not a great matchup for us, which is why it was exposed even more. But no, I think, it's normal throughout a season. You do have your, you have your highs and lows when it comes to picking up these principles of play. And I think the most important thing is learning is non-linear. So what I mean by that is it's not always going to be like this. We're going to have these regressions and these these regressions and these uptakes of learning. And as long as it's gradually going upwards, we can deal with those dips. And I think the most important thing is I feel like the players are very aware of when we are not executing certain covers or applying our base principles. And I think that's the most important thing, because I think it's kind of 2 different mistakes. I think the first mistake is when you have no awareness of what happened and there's kind of no intentionality. And then the second one is you had the right intentions, but maybe athletically you just couldn't execute it despite trying your best to be in that right position at the right time. And just, watching obviously all the film back, I feel like a lot of our defensive lapses are the latter, where we got the right intentions and there are some things positionally we can improve. But really now it's just a case of how can we make the most out of the group, working with our performance team to reduce things like blow-bys and being able to jump out there at the shows and contain, being able to be more physical, defensive rebounding. So it's really just a case of our performance team, I think, have a really important job with our personnel to improve our overall defense. And I'm so happy with the work they're doing. Couldn't be a better performance team to support what we're doing from a coaching staff. And then it's on us just to keep maximizing the group and putting them in the right positions to succeed defensively.
And then just to follow up on Christy's note on the adjustments, and not asking you to give away too much, but the most important adjustment that you think needs to happen from the first meeting, or the most important one that you're looking for, especially early on in the game?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think last time we played here, a lot of the kind of dribble handoff get actions, we we didn't execute that well in our drop cover. So, just looking at some subtleties of different ways we can actually guard that instead of just being reliant on guarding at 1 against 2 and hoping that we can get back in front and get back to neutral. So we've really tidied that up. And I do think a big theme just these last 3 weeks for us has been guarding cross screens and rip screens, especially when it's guards, setting those for fours or fives. So really just working on how our fours and fives can arrive and take either route, but the outcome is you have to make sure you're neutral, whether you go over or you gap it and go under. You got to make sure you're meeting them the other side and not conceding like deep seals or advantages. So I think just having some time to clean up that a little bit on court, in film, etc. I think that does pertain to Washington pretty well. And then really just I think, as each game goes on, it's the team gets better executing scouts and what we want game plan wise. So I do feel like there's a better understanding of some of Washington's actions and how we're looking to neutralize those.
Thank you.